Chapter 1. You are not one mind. You are three systems in conflict. If you have ever said, "I don't understand why I did that. I know what's right, but I still don't do it. Part of me wants this. Part of me wants the opposite," then you are already experiencing the core structure of your psyche. The mistake is believing there is one unified you. There isn't. There are three systems operating simultaneously, and most psychological suffering comes from confusing their voices. The three-layer architecture, human psychology, operates on three interacting levels: biological system, survival-driven neural mechanisms; social system, culturally installed behavioral regulation; personal identity system, the narrative self. They evolved at different times. They operate at different speeds. They pursue different goals. They are not designed to be harmonious. Layer 1. Biology. This is your evolutionary inheritance. It regulates threat detection, sexual attraction, aggression, dominance, sensitivity, attachment, reward seeking. It operates below awareness. Its priorities are simple: survive, reproduce, maintain position. It does not care about your values. It does not care about your long-term goals. It reacts instantly. If you feel fear before you think, that's biology. If you feel attraction before you evaluate, that's biology. If you feel anger before reasoning, that's biology. It is fast and emotionally intense. Layer 2. Social programming. This system is installed through interaction. From early childhood, you absorbed what is acceptable, what is shameful, what is admired, what is forbidden. These rules become internal regulators. They shape behavior through guilt, shame, desire for approval, fear of rejection. This layer is not biological instinct. It is social conditioning. It governs your status in the group. And since humans are tribal by nature, status equals safety. This system often conflicts with biology. Biology says, take. Society says, restrain. Biology says, dominate. Society says, be polite. Internal tension begins here. Layer 3. Identity. This is the story you tell about yourself. I am disciplined. I am kind. I am ambitious. I am not that kind of person. Identity organizes memory into a coherent narrative. But identity does not control biology or social programming. It interprets them, often after the fact. You act first. Identity explains later. The source of inner conflict. Imagine this scenario. You want professional recognition. You believe you are not confident. That's identity narrative. The result, paralysis. Not because you lack motivation, not because you lack ability, but because the three systems are not aligned. Psychological maturity begins with recognizing which system is speaking. When you say, I want, ask, which layer wants this? Clarity reduces chaos. Chapter 2. Perception is construction, not observation. You do not experience reality. You experience your nervous system's interpretation of sensory input. That distinction changes everything. The predictive brain, the brain does not wait for information and then analyze it. It predicts first. It uses past experience to generate expectations. Then it matches sensory data against those expectations. This means perception is top-down. You see what you are prepared to see. This is why two people witness the same event and disagree. Emotional states alter interpretation. Fear magnifies neutral stimuli into threats. The three filters of perception, each psychological layer influences interpretation. Biological filter. Is this dangerous? Is this beneficial? Social filter. Does this improve or threaten my status? Identity filter. Does this confirm who I believe I am? These filters operate simultaneously. They distort before you become aware. Example, neutral event. 3 interpretations. You send a message. No reply for hours. Biological reaction. Rejection equals exclusion risk. Social interpretation. My position is weakening. Identity narrative. Am not valued. Reality. No response yet. Everything else is projection. Emotional amplification when emotion is high. Prediction dominates perception. If anxious, ambiguous signals become threatening. If insecure, neutral feedback feels critical. If prideful, mild disagreement feels like attack. Emotion biases interpretation, and interpretation reinforces emotion. It becomes a feedback loop. Practical intervention when triggered. Separate event from story. Identify emotional state. Ask which layer is activated. Example. Event. They interrupted me. Story. They disrespect me. Emotion. Anger. Layer activated. Likely social status, sensitivity. The more precise you become in identifying these mechanisms, the less reactive you become. Awareness interrupts automatic escalation. Chapter 3: Biology. The fast system that overrides reason. Your body reacts before your mind understands. And most decisions are initiated below consciousness. Evolutionary speed. The biological system evolved long before abstract reasoning. It evaluates threat proximity, facial expression, tone shifts, posture dominance, sexual cues, group hierarchy shifts within milliseconds. Conscious thought is slower. This means instinct frequently initiates behavior. Rationalization follows. Modern mismatch. Your nervous system evolved for physical danger, food scarcity, tribal competition. Today, it reacts to emails, meetings, social media, financial uncertainty, but it interprets symbolic stress as physical threat. Your heart rate rises during public speaking, as if you are facing exile. Your body cannot distinguish metaphorical danger from physical risk. Anxiety explained. Anxiety is the biological system overestimating threat probability. It activates increased heart rate, muscle tension, vigilance, narrowed focus. The body prepares for action. But in modern life, action is often suppressed. So the energy remains internalized. This is why anxiety feels restless. Regulation, not suppression. You cannot reason away biological activation. You regulate it physically. Methods: slow breathing, longer exhale than inhale, physical movement, exposure to feared stimuli, deliberate action despite discomfort. Action teaches the nervous system safety. Avoidance reinforces threat coding. Key principle: courage is not absence of fear. Courage is behavioral override of instinct. Repeated override rewires perception. Biology learns through experience, not argument. Chapter 4: Social Conditioning. The invisible cage. Many of your strongest fears are not biological. They are social. And they were installed before you had the capacity to question them. Internalized norms from early childhood. Approval equals safety. Disapproval equals danger. Over time, external rules become internal voices. You feel guilt without being accused. You feel shame without being judged, because the social system monitors you internally. Hierarchy sensitivity. Humans are acutely aware of rank. Small cues trigger comparison. Tone shifts, eye contact, interruption patterns. Praise distribution. Your nervous system tracks relative position constantly. Loss of status activates stress circuits similar to physical threat. This is why humiliation feels physically painful. Social anxiety decoded. Social anxiety is heightened hierarchy sensitivity. The question beneath it is, where do I stand? It is not weakness. It is tribal vigilance. Understanding this removes self-judgment. Cultural scripts. Different cultures install different scripts. What is bold in one environment is rude in another. What is assertive in one group is arrogant in another. Many internal conflicts are script collisions. You may feel wrong simply because you are operating between incompatible norms. Practical liberation. Ask, is this fear about survival or reputation? Is this shame biological or learned? Chapter 5: Identity. The narrative that protects itself. You believe you are consistent, but identity is constantly editing reality to preserve coherence. Narrative construction. Identity organizes memory selectively. It highlights events that confirm self-image. It minimizes contradictions. If you see yourself as strong, you reinterpret failure as strategy. If you see yourself as unlucky, you reinterpret opportunity as threat. Identity seeks continuity, not accuracy. Post hoc justification. Behavior often precedes explanation. You act impulsively. Later, you construct reasons. The mind prefers "I chose this" over "I reacted." This protects self-esteem. Cognitive dissonance. When action contradicts self-image. Identity reduces discomfort by altering memory, shifting blame, reframing intention. This protects psychological stability, but it prevents growth. Identity rigidity versus flexibility. Rigid identity resists new evidence, avoids uncomfortable feedback, defends contradictions. Flexible identity tolerates dissonance, updates self-concept, integrates new information. Growth requires identity flexibility. Practical exercise. When uncomfortable feedback appears, instead of defending, ask, what part of my identity feels threatened? The threat is rarely about truth. It is about narrative stability. If you learn to observe identity without obeying it, you move from reactive to conscious living. Chapter 6: The Illusion of I. Who is actually making decisions? Here is a dangerous idea. You are not a single, unified decision maker. You experience yourself as one center of control, one will, one perspective. But this feeling of unity is constructed after the fact. It is not the origin of action, it is the narrator. Let's dismantle the illusion. Every decision you make emerges from competition between neural systems operating at different speeds, depths, and priorities. There is a fast, emotional, survival-driven system, a social identity system, a reflective, strategic reasoning system. The reflective layer believes it is in charge. It is not. By the time you decide, your biological and emotional systems have already generated biases, impulses, and directional momentum. The rational mind mostly justifies. This is not philosophical speculation. It is observable. Ask yourself, why do you reach for your phone before thinking? Why does anger feel instantaneous? Why do cravings override long-term plans? Because impulse precedes explanation. The feeling of willpower arises only when reflective control interrupts automatic momentum. But interruption requires awareness, and awareness requires friction. Without friction, autopilot wins. Here is the mechanism. Biological drive generates impulse. Emotional system assigns urgency. Narrative mind constructs explanation. You believe the explanation was the cause. It wasn't. The narrative layer is a public relations department. It maintains coherence. It protects identity. It defends consistency. The real driver is subcortical. So what does this mean practically? It means self-control is not about trying harder. It is about modifying inputs before impulse emerges. You cannot outthink a biological drive in the moment of activation, but you can remove triggers, redesign environments, increase time between impulse and action. The gap is power. When stimulus and response fuse, there is no freedom. When you create delay, reflective processing activates. Try this experiment. When an urge appears, do not suppress it. Label it. Biological impulse detected. Social validation impulse detected. Threat response activated. This labeling recruits the reflective layer. It transforms reactivity into observation. Observation weakens compulsion. Another practice, pre-commitment. Instead of relying in the moment, discipline. Define constraints in advance. Examples: put the phone in another room during deep work. Decide what to eat before hunger appears. Set automatic transfers to savings accounts. You are designing for your future biological self. You do not defeat autopilot with force. You defeat it with architecture. And here's the deeper insight. The self is not something you find. It is something you stabilize through alignment between systems. When biological drives, social identity, and reflective values align, action feels effortless. When they conflict, you feel fragmented. The goal is not suppression of lower systems. It is integration. Ask, what does my body want? What does my social identity demand? What does my long-term model require? Then design convergence. Freedom is not absence of influence. Freedom is awareness of influence. Chapter 7: Anxiety. When prediction becomes a threat machine, anxiety is not weakness. It is prediction under uncertainty. Your brain is fundamentally predictive. It constantly simulates future scenarios. It calculates possible threats. It prepares responses. This mechanism kept ancestors alive. But in modern environments, prediction has become detached from immediate physical danger. Now it simulates reputational risks, career risks, abstract failures. The biological layer cannot distinguish between social rejection and physical attack. Cortisol is released. Heart rate increases. Muscles tense. The body prepares to run. But there is nowhere to run. Anxiety persists. Here is the core dynamic. Uncertainty appears. The brain fills gaps with worst-case projections. Emotional systems treat projection as present reality. Avoidance behaviors reinforce the alarm. Avoidance teaches the brain. This was dangerous. Avoidance strengthens anxiety. So what reduces it? Clarity and exposure. First, define the threat precisely. Anxiety thrives in vagueness. Instead of, what if everything collapses? Specify what exactly would collapse. What would that look like? What is the probability? What are the concrete steps if it happens? Specificity recruits analytical processing. Vagueness feeds emotional escalation. Second, increased tolerance for uncertainty. You cannot eliminate uncertainty, but you can expand your nervous system's tolerance for it. Deliberately enter small, uncertain situations. Speak up when unsure. Try new environments. Delay reassurance seeking. Each exposure recalibrates threat prediction. Third, physiological regulation. Anxiety is not just cognitive, it is bodily. Slow breathing patterns directly modulate autonomic arousal. Longer exhalations activate parasympathetic recovery. This is not symbolic, it is mechanical. Fourth, behavioral momentum. When anxious, you shrink your world. Expansion counters this. Movement, social interaction, structured tasks. These restore predictive confidence. Anxiety collapses when the brain gathers new evidence contradicting its catastrophic forecast. Evidence requires action, not rumination. You do not think your way out of anxiety, you disconfirm it. Anxiety is prediction without sufficient data. Courage is data acquisition. Chapter 8: Identity. The social brain's hidden controller. Most of your decisions are not driven by truth. They are driven by belonging. The social layer of the psyche evolved to maintain inclusion within a group. Exclusion historically meant death. Therefore, reputation equals survival. Your brain constantly asks, how am I perceived? Do I fit? Am I above or below status? These calculations are automatic. This explains conformity under pressure, online performance behavior, sensitivity to criticism, fear of visibility. You believe you seek happiness. Often you seek validation. Social media exploits this circuitry precisely. Intermittent reward schedules, likes, comments, views trigger dopamine reinforcement. Identity becomes externalized. The danger is fragmentation. If your self-concept depends entirely on external signals, your emotional state becomes unstable. Stability requires internal anchors. Here is the shift. Instead of asking, how am I perceived? Ask, what standards am I choosing? You cannot control perception. You can control alignment. Define what competence means for you, what integrity means for you, what success means for you. Then act according to those definitions. Reputation may fluctuate. Identity stabilizes. Another practice, diversify belonging. If all validation comes from one domain, work, romantic relationship, social media, vulnerability increases. Multiple domains distribute psychological risk. The social brain will always seek approval, but it can be guided. You can consciously choose reference groups. Surround yourself with people who reward growth, not performance, theater. Belonging shapes behavior more than intention. Choose environments that reinforce who you want to become. Identity is not discovered. It is negotiated socially and stabilized internally. Chapter 9: Learning. Rewiring the predictive machine. Learning is not memorization. It is updating prediction models. Your brain constantly compresses experience into patterns. These patterns guide future expectations. If experience contradicts expectation, plasticity activates. If it confirms expectation, stability increases. Growth requires productive mismatch. Comfort does not produce learning. Challenge does. But challenge must be calibrated. Too easy, no adaptation. Too difficult, shut down. Optimal learning occurs at the boundary of competence. Here is the operational model. Engage material slightly beyond current ability. Struggle. Generate errors. Receive feedback. Adjust prediction. Error is not failure. Error is signal. This is why passive consumption is ineffective. Reading without retrieval. Watching without testing. These create familiarity, illusion. Active recall rewires networks. Spacing strengthens consolidation. Sleep stabilizes memory traces. Emotion enhances encoding. Therefore, test yourself frequently. Teach concepts aloud. Space repetition over days. Connect material to personal relevance. The predictive brain prioritizes what matters emotionally. If you want retention, create stakes. Curiosity is a learning amplifier. It signals importance. You cannot force attention indefinitely, but you can design engagement. Break content into problem-solution loops. Ask questions before answers. Create tension before resolution. The brain seeks closure. Learning is not about consuming more. It is about restructuring models. Each new skill alters identity, expands competence, and reduces uncertainty. Mastery increases predictive accuracy. Predictive accuracy reduces anxiety. Growth compounds. Chapter 10: Integration. Escaping autopilot. Autopilot is efficient. It conserves energy. It reduces cognitive load, but it also traps. If your habits were formed unconsciously, autopilot will repeat outdated strategies indefinitely. Escaping autopilot requires 3 conditions: awareness, friction, deliberate redesign. Awareness begins with observation. Track behaviors. When do you reach for stimulation? When do you avoid? When do you escalate emotionally? Patterns reveal architecture. Next, introduce friction. Increase difficulty of undesirable behaviors. decrease difficulty of desirable ones. If distraction is one click away, it wins. If deep work requires no setup, it becomes accessible. Environment is stronger than intention. Then, intentional identity shift. Instead of asking, "What habit should I stop?" ask, "What type of person does not need this habit?" Behavior change anchored in identity is durable. When biological drives, social belonging, and reflective strategy align, transformation stabilizes. This is integration. You are not eliminating lower systems. You are orchestrating them. Biology provides energy. Emotion provides direction. Reflection provides strategy. When strategy guides energy toward meaningful direction, fulfillment emerges. Happiness is not a mood, it is coherence. When prediction aligns with reality, when identity aligns with behavior, when environment aligns with values, psychological friction decreases. You stop fighting yourself. You stop living reactively. You become architect rather than passenger. Not by suppressing instincts, not by rejecting emotion, but by understanding the system deeply enough to design it. Autopilot is default, integration is deliberate, and deliberate living is freedom.